to Reno Radio. I'm your host, Naomi Findlay, and I'm Australia's real renovation expert. This podcast will give you real advice for renovating, selling your property, or styling your home so you can create beautiful, healthy, and wealthy spaces too. Renovating does not have to be hard. In fact, it can be one of the most rewarding things you ever do. So join me and my impressive list of guests each week for plenty of feel-good inspiration and real renovation advice. This is Reno Radio. Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Reno Radio, and I have a guest very dear to my heart with us today. Quite a phenomenal woman that I had the pleasure of meeting when I filmed Changing Rooms, and it is the amazing Jane Thomson from Thomson Interiors. So welcome, Jane, and thank you so much for being here today.
Hello, Naomi, and darling, it's such a pleasure to chat to you. We have this mutual admiration society going on.
We did, didn't we?
I think you're amazing. Oh my God.
Thank you. That's very, very kind. But we did have the pleasure of filming Changing Rooms together. And although we were on opposite cycles, so to speak, so we didn't actually get to work together, I think there was this outrageous bond set in sweat, broken nails, blood, and dirt between us.
Absolutely. My God, wasn't that just amazing? I mean, the amount of work that we did for that show, I don't think people realise what work actually goes into those kind of shows. And I think we were a little different because we were so hands-on and we just got in there and, we just did it. We were there at, 11 o'clock at night painting walls. We were we were battening, we were doing all sorts of things. And
it is so true.
I did hear little birdie tell me that they thought that you were the hardest worker.
Oh, well, that's very kind. I nearly spat
from me, of course.
Apart from you. Well, that's very kind. I take, we all know that I love a work site. And just like you, I took the ownership of making sure that ship came into sail very personally. For me, just like you, it wasn't a TV show. It was someone's home.
Correct.
And that means a lot to me that we're entrusted with people's homes. I did similar to you. And you know what? That's the reason that I did Changing Rooms is because it was real renovation, real budgets, real timelines.
Correct.
Work. There was no army that swept me off my feet and gave me a manicure and did my makeup. Like,
yeah.
And you can see that, can't you? Oh my gosh, I saw some of the footage. I'm like, you needed someone to sort you out, Naomi. You are so sweaty and gross.
No. Listen, I have seen quite a few of your shows, your episodes, and darling, you look fabulous. You just like me, we were just working damn hard. We got a bit of dirt under, as you said, bit of dirt under our nails. We were stressed. Oh my God.
The stress was pretty
unbelievable. But it was good stress because you know what? We were doing some fantastic stuff for these delightful people that had no idea.
And they also didn't have the resources. So I actually, in one of the eps, I was quite emotional, and it's because it was, it was really cool. It was just like the tagline, it was changing lives. And, that's, for us traditional down to earth chicks, Jane, that was really cool, really cool. But I want to talk about you now because you, outside of Changing Rooms, you have a whole life unto itself in the Thomson interior design and styling divas. So, just for those who haven't met you before or haven't looked into you, can you just give us a brief overview of that?
Yeah, of course, I'd love to. Look, I started my practice in 1990, which is, nearly 30 years ago. I mean, God, that's a lifetime ago.
For some.
I was around when God was a boy. You believe in that stuff, but yeah. So I've been around a hell of a long time. I mean, I was just thinking about it the other day, and boy, has that gone quickly. But and the changes I've seen in the industry, and just about interior design and styling is just huge. I started my other little offshoot called Styling Divas. Actually, that was only last year, and that came about because I saw there was a big gap in the market. I'm not a person that owns my own furniture.
Yep.
So what I do is
Styling Divas is a property styling arm of your business.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
It is my property styling arm. But there is a need for a super top end.
Yeah.
And there's a need for the really low end where people can't afford to possibly spend, $4,000 to $5,000 on a style. So I come in. So I do the top and lower end, which works out really, really well. And it's just delightful because, as I said, we're talking about changing rooms that people just don't have the budget, they don't have the means. And it's amazing what a zhuzh coming through for 4 hours in a home that, is probably a little bit lackluster, and just doing tricks and things that I've learned over the last 30 years. And in implementing it and it just makes such a difference. And okay, they don't have amazing furniture, but it's just obviously is taking out stuff.
Yeah, and a lot better than what they would have had.
Oh, absolutely, and it just makes sense. So, so that's what I've done, darling. I've loved every minute of it.
I was about to ask that. That was going to be my next question. What arm do you love more, or do you see them as really different? The interior design arm and the property styling arm.
Okay, so look, I love both. I love the property styling because it's instantaneous. You go in there, you do it, you're out, and you can see instant results. Sorry, I just had an email come.
It's immediate gratification, isn't it? Immediate gratification.
It's immediate gratification. Whereas with Downey Thomson, I have 2 large renovations that I complete for clients a year, and then smaller design jobs in between. But those projects can sometimes go on for 2 years.
Absolutely.
So, you kind of get lost in the process. So, and you're dying to see this, what you believe is going to be an amazing, amazing project finalized. But you know what? It's a long time coming. So you can get a little, what's the word? You can get a little
stale,
and you just go, come on, project, whip, come on, just get moving. But obviously these things take time. So I guess for instant gratification, the styling divas or the property styling part is something that's fabulous, and that keeps you going. But then, when a project actually comes to fruition after 2 years or 18 months, you just look back on it and go, wow.
What a journey and what an experience.
What a journey that was. So, they've both got their pluses and minuses. But, the instant gratification is really cool. Love that.
Absolutely. And what's also a really interesting point, and you would see having some large scale projects that go over 1 or 2 years, in renovating, which is a large part of my audience, people are always asking me about design trends. And how they impact, how they don't, what their longevity is. When you're doing a design project, how do you decide what part of a trend, because realistically we're epically affected in the design industry by our trends, because our trends run or rule the product that is often available to us, and so what's your take on, design trends, how they impact or don't impact in your decision making?
Right, interesting question, big question, and there's.
I know it's a big cookie.
I'm
just going to sit back in my chair, and you can take that one away
while I prattle on. And darling, if I do go off topic, you know me.
I'll reel you in. It's all good.
And I can go on infinitum. But basically, look, at the top of when I'm meeting with clients, and we're in a trend area at the moment. There are lots of trends that are we're being bombarded with, and you've got to think at the end of the day, this is for businesses. When a trend is rolled out, you get a lot of businesses jumping on those trends, but of course because they're going to sell that and they want to sell it, and that's fine. But I often ask clients, look, why are we doing this renovation? What's the reason for this?
Yeah.
So I kind of try to get to that. It's a very important thing, and often some people don't really think about it. Sometimes they go, look, I need more space. Sometimes, if you're making more rooms or you're adding on, sometimes people just want to do it because, okay, their look is very outdated. Sometimes I get clients that haven't done a makeover in, say, 30 years.
Yes.
So I extract out of them why they're doing it. And that often leads to the outcome, what we're going to be looking at, why we're selecting or specifying specific items.
Yes.
So often I do say to clients, because I do worry that people jump on slavishly to a trend.
Yes.
And my mantra, which I do bring into it, I don't have a style per se,
Yes.
but I do bring into the mantra, my mantra is, eclecticism. So when you have an eclectic, or when you look at an eclectic design basis,
Yes.
you've always got a little bit of room to move. So obviously when you're doing, high expense rooms, which are, bathrooms and kitchens, I normally say to people, look, what's your longevity? How long are you going to be here for? Is this for
Yes.
5? Is this for 10 years? Or is this for 20 years? And often you come up with different formulas for those timeframes. So often I'll say to someone, look, okay, so if you're going to jump in on this and you want an on-trend look, okay, if you're going to be here 5 years and you're going to sell this property, you're going to flog it and move on, I say, okay, that's fine. If it's something for a little bit longer, I say, okay, let's look at this. Let's look at this in a classic, sensible way.
Yeah.
So at the end of 10 years, they're going to have something, I prefer to sort of push them towards something more classic and pick it up with, cushions, inexpensive artwork, perhaps a few chairs that are really, really on trend. So they're going to have a great eclectic classic look that, if they come to sell their home in 10 years' time, okay, we might have to paint over a wall or to make it more generic, but that's not a huge thing.
And
So
I agree. I think it's like for longevity, when someone's going to be there long term, it's instead of being classic with some trend, I like to think of it as you can give them a longevity look, so a classic look, and that does not mean traditional. Classic is very different to traditional, but with current elements. And I think that's the point. It's current elements that can be changed over time. So you choose your elements that have a 2-year lifespan, like your cushions, like your lamps.
Yeah.
And you say, right, well, with those, we'll be as current as you like. And that's another interesting point. I had an amazing lunch yesterday with a phenomenal designer local to me who I just adore. And she has been in the industry for a really long time. Her and I always, whenever we're having conversations, we giggle that we're like the old women of the industry out here.
Hardly.
Which is really quite funny. And she's amazing. And she was talking about how, and you would attest to this, and it's something that I would encourage anyone to do when you're renovating, is always to start with a master view. And the reason I bring this up, it's exactly sort of what you're talking about. Is, we're talking about the concept of when you're putting together a room for when you're renovating your own home or your house, it's so important to have a master view.
You have to.
Because otherwise you can have that feeling where you walk from one space to another space, and that does not mean everything needs to match and everything needs to be the same color. But there needs to be a master palette, a master theme. Is a really bad word. Theme is such a bad word. When I think of theme, I think of Disney. What would be another word, Jane, instead of theme? Because that's a really bad word.
You know what? That is a bad word. But when I went through design school, that was thrown at us all the time.
No!
Look, I love to see it as I always go plan. We need to have an overall plan of your fabulous design. So it's if you don't have if you don't have a plan, you're kind of planning to fail, aren't you? So, you know, because it is without that, that's why we do, that's why our processes as designers are based on plans. You know, without that as an overview, you just you can't do a really good, cohesive, curated design. Now,
I think they're two very sexy words.
yeah.
I love those two words, cohesive and curated, because do you know what? As you would have already worked out, Jane, I am totally, some people call me a magpie, some people call me a squirrel, some people call me a pigeon, that I'm like, cuckoo, cuckoo, you know, like, oh, look, there are acorns over there.
I must have them.
I must have them. So, you know, and marketing and advertising and Instagram and visual imagery is so powerful. And so when new exciting finishes come out, you know, it takes me all my time not to want to gravitate towards them. And when you are across a 1 year or a 2 year project, like the amount of amazing things that will appear during that time.
Yeah,
oh
correct.
my gosh. And some of them absolutely could be incorporated in if they qualify with your overall vision. Whereas if you don't have that vision, instead of having like this beautiful flow process, your process of designing your renovation that you're doing ends up being like to and fro, dart, to and fro, to and fro. Oh, did I make the right decision? Should I do this? And that costs money and that costs time.
Yeah. And look, I in my lifespan of, you know, my almost 30 years of doing this job, I have been called into so many of those as a rescue design doctor.
Oh, no.
Yeah, honestly, look, I have seen people throw 500,000 or more at a renovation and they haven't even finished. I get called in and they've already done exactly what you were just talking about. They've cherry-picked from this, and they're sitting there going, oh my God, oh darling, have you seen this latest thing? Look, I think we're going to swap that out for you know, we thought about. And there you find this mishmash of, dare I say, can I say this, shit. And it looks like shit. So when you walk into this space, you know, you take something in isolation, you take one of the surfaces that they've actually employed, and you think, wow, that's a beautiful tile. And then you look over to the right and you see a splashback that just doesn't make any sense with that beautiful flooring they've just put in. So, and what a waste of money.
And also energy. So I guess that leads me to my next question. For all those people listening that are wanting to renovate their own homes and are really wanting to have a go at it themselves, like they really are truly wanting to have true ownership in the process and they're wanting to have a go, what would be the 3 most key pieces of advice in the design stage that you would give them?
Okay. Number one, we just talked about the overview and the overall view of what you're doing is to plan. You must plan. You must have an overall view and I hate this word too, but style or look at what you want to achieve. So that comes in the planning.
Yes.
Look at what you want to.
Style could be replaced with vibe, look, like, you know,
look, feel, you know, and
atmosphere.
Stick to it.
Yeah,
Stick
absolutely.
To it.
Stick to it. That's an interesting element of that whole point, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I'm really rooting down to knowing the look and feel that you're after and having the, I guess, tenacity to stick to it.
Exactly. Because when you are, you know, a mum and dad renovator, you don't have what we have. You're not privy to what we see all the time. So it's even more important for mums and dads out there, or, you know, young people that are starting out, to really have a very good and very strict plan about what you're doing. Otherwise, you will fail. Seriously. The second thing is to always be, I guess, really careful about how quickly, and I don't know, it sounds stupid, but when you're working out your plan, spend a few weeks on it. Don't just think, oh, I've got to get this done because we're starting in this amount of time and it's only 3 weeks away and we've got the builder booked. And you know what? If you don't have this set out really properly, spend about, you know what I would do? I'd spend about at least a month on actually.
That's actually extraordinarily insightful, Jane, because and so much can often, you know, we have a serious trade shortage in our country. And so more often than not, I think that's such good advice. I find what can happen is when someone does secure a trade that they like, one, they're unaware of the level of detail they'll need to tell their builder, you know, like literally. So what profile would you like on your skirts? So do you want matte or gloss? Do you want this? Do you want that? You know, do you want recessed door handles? Would you like, you know, all these millions of questions? And I think that sometimes people don't realize the gamut of questions that that go into specifying their space. And I think also that then means they might leave it to the week before, because what's naturally when people are, you know, in their zone of genius, they're all over it. But if it's not your zone of genius, you're not meant to know all those things. And so I think that's such good advice about, you know what, give yourself a really good lead time. And
Absolutely.
Ideally have conversations with if you've got your trade team secured, have conversations with them during that lead time, so you make sure that everything is covered.
Absolutely. And ask them questions and ask them their lead time for different things. So, you know, so you've got your overall, you've spent the month, but you've got to be cognizant of the fact you are going to get asked those questions. Do you want those handles recessed? Do you, with your lighting, you know, do you want it recessed? What colour? Exactly, darling. And those are the things that take time. And
they do.
A lot of people don't understand that, especially when hiring a designer, that, you know, a lot of our time is spent, 20% of what we do is actually creative. The rest of it is all in the machinery, the comings and goings and the administration and that
documentation. Documentation and communication.
Exactly.
What you've dreamt up actually gets built.
Exactly. And a lot of those details take up huge amounts of time. So the devil is in the detail. So when you get that overall scheme and you've spent the month and you've nutted all that out, then you go and you say, okay, now we've got the detail part. How are we going to finish these, you know, these little details off? And that's when you get to the nitty gritty. And the more time you spend on that, the better and the cheaper your renovation will be. Because if you've got builders hanging around and you're, you know, that's time is money. You know, time 100%. Is money and it's coming out of your pocket.
100%, and redoing things is time and money. That's a gold one, actually. I love that one, Jane. What about the third one?
Well, that kind of tied in with the third one, but look, I think the finishing off. So what you've got to do with the budget is a big thing, and I know this because I've done it several times myself. I've done my own renos, not only doing, you know, helping people with theirs. Is having that contingency budget at the end. Now, what I would say to people, okay, if you're going to be looking, I mean, and you are the queen of this, darling, and I don't know if you're going to agree with this, but when you're looking at an amount that you're going to spend, if you're saying, okay, darling, we've got 150,000, I always would recommend that you have a contingency up your sleeve at, I know this sounds a lot, but at least 20%.
Yeah, I'm a 15%er, but I 100% agree with you. 100% agree, because there will be things that will happen, and that doesn't necessarily mean bad things. It might mean, oh wow, we didn't realize the inside of the wall looked like that. We could actually raise the ceiling by 300 mil just for an extra grand, which I don't know, if someone said that to me, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm doing that. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be a disaster or a catastrophe that happens. It could be an amazing opportunity that gets unfolded. And so I think,
you know why? Because making your ceiling a little bit higher can actually add a few thousand on to when you're selling, because that gives a feeling of space. It gives a feeling of luxury. And when people walk into a space, they don't know that they're actually taking this in. And this is what I'm about, all about the psychology of interiors. A lot of what I do is looking at all those things. And when people are buying homes, why they do. People don't even clock that, but it's an actual thing. It's a sense that they're actually copying that they don't even understand, that makes them feel emotionally invested in that property. So all those things, and that's what you just mentioned about, making the ceiling a little bit higher or things like that. That's something that should be, as you said, or could be in that, 10 to 20%. Now, the reason I've gone up with the 20% is in the last 5 years, building has become, if you're hiring a builder, has become so expensive. Their rates have gone through the roof. And that's why I brought it up to the 20%.
Yes. Well, there's certainly been, around the country, it's been quite interesting to watch the moving and shaking of different costs in general. But I think those three things are fantastic. And realistically, the part that I love there is you've actually covered visionary and practical. So visionary and implementation, which is realistically what renovating and design is all about. It's about having a vision and creativity, but also managing to implement that. And that's where the true amazingness comes in.
I love it. Amazingness. Well, it is.
Amazingness. That's not actually a word though, is it? I often, as you know, I have a full vocabulary of words that aren't even words, Jane.
I love them. But it's about telling a story. And when you use those words, they're really fun. They're really, it's something that you want to jump into. So using Absolutely. Those words and using them when you're doing your beautiful renovation, hey, make up some words, because sometimes when halfway through a renovation and you turn around and you look at your partner and you go, oh my God, why do we do this? Those words, you just keep those words in your head and it will be absolutely amazing once it'll be amaze balls once you
amaze balls. And hopefully a great time whilst you're doing it.
It can be fun. But you've got to plan. If you don't plan, then that's when it's horrible.
And look at us, we're still smiling.
Yeah, I got you. It's such fun. It's the funnest thing you can do with your clothes on.
Okay, let's not go that far. All right. So it's been such a pleasure having you on the show, Jane. I'm so excited that you stopped by. We would obviously naturally love to have you back again. Anyone who would like to reach out to Jane or like to know more about her, we will have a link that you can go visit Jane in the show notes. So go check her out. She is an absolute hoot and actually has, a little black book of words all of her own. So thank you so much for joining us today, Jane.
Darling Naomi, it's always a pleasure. Again, I think you're an absolute powerhouse. Love you to bits, and it's been absolutely wonderful.
Thank you so much, Jane.
Okay, darling.
All right, team. So we have just finished up talking to the amazing Jane. And remember, if you enjoyed this show, if you love hearing about renovation and design and all things Reno Rainbow, wow, Reno Radio, make sure you go and give us a review or hit subscribe so you never miss a beat. Thanks for listening, and I will catch you on the next show. Hey renovators, if you're ready to take the next step in your renovation journey, then come learn how to renovate with me in my online renovation masterclass. It's completely free for all of you listeners. So if you want to discover how to renovate properties for profit, head over to naomifindlay.com/renovation masterclass, where I'll show you how the 7 steps to my winning rapid renovation formula create a 6-figure income for me and many of my students. So save your spot today. Remember, it's naomifindlay.com/renovation masterclass. See you soon.